Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Taco Rick channel. In today's video, well, I'm filming the intro now. The video is actually going to start right behind me. The intro got corrupt somehow, but we're going to be installing a K&N air intake on the Toyota Tacoma, the 2020 TRD off-road premium with all the different modifications, all that fun stuff. And I'm going to talk about some of the benefits of what that cold air intake is going to do in the next clip, which is going to go back to present day when I was installing it. So let's go back to that. First benefit in having a cold air intake is just overall functionality of your vehicle. Your engine is going to be a little bit more happy because it's going to have more airflow to it, which is then going to give you, it's going to have like a little bit of a horsepower bump, nothing that you can actually like notice or measure. It might be like 5 horsepower, which is like an accuracy thing, to be honest. And along those lines, it also does improve your fuel economy. Again, nothing crazy, maybe like 1 mile per gallon, nothing crazy. The biggest two benefits are that you, one, do not need to replace your filter. This filter is good to go for life. All you need to do is basically clean it out. It's washable, and they sell kits where you can clean them and then re-oil them and all that fun stuff. It's all on K&N's site, and I'll link them down in the description down below. But that's one nice part about a cold air intake. It's gonna last you for life. You never have to buy another filter again. And the biggest notable reason for getting a cold air intake is to increase how loud your vehicle is. So this will definitely increase the engine noise from your engine bay. Doesn't make your exhaust any louder, but the noise from your engine itself in the engine bay is going to increase pretty significantly, to be honest. So along those lines, we need to get an audio test to get a baseline of how loud this engine is. So this is not necessarily a cold start. This thing has only been sitting here for maybe an hour since I last drove it. But let's get the audio from the outside, and then I will give you the audio on the inside, and we'll go for a little drive, and then we will install the cold air intake and get another reading of how loud it is. So, inside the truck, super quiet. I would rev it for you in the garage, but I don't want to really piss off people. So, we're going to go for a little drive real quick. I'll rev the engine out, get you to see some RPMs, and you get to hear how loud the actual truck is. And then, obviously, we'll compare it to the cold air intake afterwards. Alright, so I'm going to give you a few little neutral revs here before I go ahead and take off. Not that loud at all. All right, so I'm gonna turn on here. This is basically part of the highway, so we're gonna get some revs. Let's go, here we go. There you go. As you can probably tell by listening to the clips, it's not that loud. It's very quiet. It sounds like a stock engine, even though we have a V6 under the hood. It doesn't sound much louder than a standard 4-cylinder, to be honest. So, we're gonna change that though. We're gonna make it louder. We're gonna add some more airflow to the engine and add this cold air intake. I will see you guys back when we get to the garage. All right, so first step in the install is to pop the hood. It really does suck that Toyota doesn't put hydraulics on their hoods. With the hood pop, let's now go look at all the components that are in the K&N cold air intake for the Toyota Tacoma's year 2016 all the way to 2020. First off, before I go through everything that is on my road case right here for the cold air intake, this is a used kit. I have already used this on my 2018 Tacoma, and I'm now transferring it to my 2020 Tacoma. Keep that in mind when you're looking at everything here. It's already been pre-assembled. I'll kind of walk you through that, but this has already been used once, and I don't necessarily remember how all this goes together or what size ratchets we need because I don't have the instructions anymore. So I will tell you throughout this video what size sockets I'm using and all that sort of stuff. So on the table. So starting off, first thing first, we do have the air filter and the clamp to secure it. Then we have our main sort of center pipe here, which already has the O2 sensor plug port thing here already pre-installed. So basically it just bolts in right here. There's a plate with a little seal around it. You bolt that in right here, and then these are the 2 Allen bolts that'll bolt our O2 sensor on, which we will steal from the stock one and put into here. Then we have 4 different O clamps right here, a couple of couplers that we're going to be using, a variety of nuts and bolts and washers, our mounting studs right here that'll mount the main holder right here for the air filter itself. This actually just goes on right here, simply like that, and it gets bolted on right there. This right here, there was some assembly that needed to be done. This little groove piece right here, you have to put that on, so that just slips on all the way around the outside of this little metal plate. You also have to bolt on this coupler piece right here, which the air filter attaches to on the inside. So that just simply bolts in with a couple bolts right there. And then you also have to bolt on this little bracket right here, which we'll use to connect to the studs. And everything I just told you right there is already laid out in the instructions for this kit. It's very simple and very easy to follow along with. So now let's get on to removing the stock air intake. So the stock air intake takes up a lot of room. It's this giant piece right here. It's this box right here. Like, this is all your air intake, which is why it keeps it so quiet. It's also why your airflow is really restricted to getting into the engine. First things first, we need to take off the cover right here. So this just literally pops out. It just kind of snaps into place. So we're gonna pop that off. Now we can access the bolts to disconnect the air intake. So literally I'm just filming as I go right here. So first thing, I'm gonna disconnect the cable that goes to the O2 sensor right here. So that just pops off right there. And then I'm also going to take this wire loom that goes to the O2 sensor, and I'm going to disconnect this little clamp right here. So that just pops off there. So that way it is disconnected from the box itself. There is another clip right underneath here that we need to disconnect as well, that's connected to the box. We'll get to that in a second. We have to disconnect our little vacuum line right here. So just wiggle this clamp back. You could also use pliers for this. It is easy to do with your hand as well. So this slips off right here. And right underneath these two release clips right here is the stock air filter. So I'm gonna disconnect these right here on either side. So that way we can lift this up and get to our stock air filter. Right there it is. So that way we're getting closer and closer to taking this all out. So that right there, stock air filter. As you can see, mine is really, really clean. It only has 5,000 miles, and you normally replace these like every 30,000 miles, but not gonna need this, so we'll set it to the side. Like I mentioned, the O2 wire harness right here has another clip right here, and you can easily just wiggle this out and it comes out. So that is now completely disconnected. Tuck it off to the side right there. Now we need to get a socket to disconnect this O-clamp right here so that we can take the main assembly for the stock air intake out. So the O-clamp that we need to disconnect is right here. This is the O-clamp connecting the stock air intake to the throttle body right here. So we need to loosen this bolt right here, which is the clamp itself, and that is a 10mm bolt head. And I have my trusty Roby impact right here. Loosen that up a little bit, and we should be able to now just slip this off of the throttle body. And we now have our stock air intake able to come out. And now we can see more of the glorious V6 inside the Tacoma in its raw glory. So now all that's left to do in terms of removing the stock air intake is to remove the stock air box, which is right here. And you simply do that by removing those two bolts right there, and there is a third right there as well. So removing those will allow us to remove the air box completely. For anyone wondering, it is a 12mm socket that you need to remove these. So I'm going to simply take my impact. And now the air box itself, we can simply lift out of the engine bay. So now we're going to replace all of that junk with all of this beautiful cold air intake from K&N. Now obviously I'll link the cold air intake that I am using in the description down below. This is the cheapest model from K&N that you can get, and there are some upgraded models you can get, but the only difference between those and this one right here is that you get a chrome metal piece instead of plastic. If you're someone that really wants to show off your engine bay, you can get the more expensive options. Or if you're someone like me that just wants a cold air intake to have a cold air intake, you can buy the cheaper plastic option and just be fine as well. Alright, so before we ditch the stock cold air intake, we need to remove the O2 sensor right here. And this can easily be done with just a Phillips head screwdriver. There are just 2 screws, and we do not need these screws either. So I'm going to quickly remove this. Alright, there we go. Alright, now over on the table we can see the pre-assembled spot that we need to put our O2 sensor. Let me take these Allen bolts that are included in the kit out real quick. And we are going to slip the O2 sensor in right here, keeping in mind that we need the arrow pointing this way. For reference, the vacuum line that goes right here is on this side, so we need to point it towards the vacuum line side. And now we take those included Allen bolts and bolt in the O2 sensor. Alright, next steps here, we need to install our couplers. So we do have two different couplers. You have this one with the groove in the center. This is actually a little bit smaller, and this one is your bigger one. I also forgot to mention that with the O clamps that are included in the kit, 2 of them are a little bit on the smaller side, going with the smaller coupler, and 2 are on the bigger side, going with the bigger coupler. So the smaller coupler with this groove is going to go on this side, right up against the throttle body, and the larger one is going to go on this side with our airbox. So I'm going to go ahead and basically attach these. So I'm going to slip this on over and slip on the collar, and same thing over here. And now I'm going to go ahead and tighten down these couplers prior to the install, and to do that you need an 8mm socket. So I have my 8mm right here. I'm going to go ahead and tighten these down. So next steps in installing the cold air intake is to install the airbox itself. This right here, which I've already pre-assembled, like I said, with the little mounting bracket here on the side and a few other components like the mounting coupler right here as well. So to install the airbox, we need to go mount up our little rubber mounts in the engine bay. So if you're looking at the engine bay right here, where we're going to be putting these studs is the following. So the studs with the threaded bolt slots on the other side, one is going to go right over here up against this wiring loom. So I'm going to just start to screw that in just so you know. The other one is going to go right up here on this top piece right here. And the third one that has a thread on both sides is actually going to go over here right beside the power steering fluid reservoir. So it's going to screw in right there. Just hand tight is all you need. Alright, so now I'm going to drop in the air box. There's 2 holes that are going to line up with where our threaded mounts are, and then this little bracket right here is going to go onto the threaded shaft that we already have here. So I'm going to drop that down right there and line the rest of this up. Good to go. So a couple things to note. One, if you notice right now, those holes are not lined up. You actually have to push this in so that it collapses this little rubber seal right there to line up those bolt holes right there. And then our post right there is lined up. You can barely see it down there, but right there is our post all lined up and ready to go. So in terms of the hardware to actually mount this airbox in, we have 2 8mm bolts right here that have a locking washer as well as a normal washer. Those are going to be used in our front 2 studs right here, and then we have a 13mm nylon nut that is going to go on the post over here. Alright, with the 2 bolts in up here as well as the nylon nut in right there, we're good to go. I will point out one thing. It is better off to leave this bolt right here, which connects that bracket. It's the other piece of the bracket. So you have a bolt right here with a nut on the other side. Leave that a little bit loose. That way you can adjust this bracket to line it up with that stud. And then also that bolt down there is super hard to get to unless you have a really long extension. This is what I was using to get down into there, to be able to attach that bolt properly with no issues. So with the airbox all mounted up and ready to go, we need to take our pipe connector, our charge pipe or whatever the hell you want to call it, and mount it into place on the throttle body and our airbox. With that done, we can now attach the vacuum line back here, attach that back to the cold air intake right there where it was originally. That's good to go. And now we can also attach the wiring harness for the O2 sensor. And the last steps of the install are to now put on the piece de resistance, the air filter. So slip the collar on first, or I guess you can slip it on around the air filter itself. Slide this on and secure it. And that pretty much wraps up the install. Last thing to do is to put our Toyota cover back on. And that is it. That is the cold air intake from K&N, fully installed and ready to go. So very clean install, very easy. One modification I do is I put a zip tie right here to hold the wiring harness, just so it's not laying on the top of the engine. So I do that. That's a little bonus thing that's not included in the instructions. So all installed and ready to go. All right, so as you can tell, it is now evening. So let's go ahead and let's start this up and see how much louder it is with the cold air intake. So first thing to note, at idle, it doesn't sound any different. Where we're gonna hear the difference is when we actually start driving and possibly maybe feel a little bit more response in the throttle as well as a little more horsepower, but honestly, not really. I've already installed this on my 2018. I'm not expecting to feel anything different. The only real noticeable thing is that it will be louder. So let's get on the road and let's go do some revs and some pulls and see what it sounds like. All right, so let me give you some neutral revs real quick here. Not sure if you guys can tell by the camera, but it is louder. And honestly, I do have the windows up, so you're not gonna hear the most volume because the windows are up, but I'm giving a fair comparison to when we had the stock one. I will, however, give you some clips of what it sounds like when you do have the windows down under a bridge, because that is my favorite thing about this cold air intake. And it's the main reason why I waste a lot of gas, and that is revving it under the bridge. All right, so we're gonna give it a nice little pull here onto the highway like last time. Here we go. I'm pretty sure you noticed a difference right there compared to the stock air intake. Yeah, so by far my favorite thing about the cold air intake is if you're just driving normal, it's not crazy loud, but if you want to get on it, especially when you get about 5,000 RPMs. And to me, the sound alone, 100% worth the money. Love it. Can't say it enough. I love it. It sounds awesome. It makes this truck really wake up and sound like it's got a big V6 under the hood. Anyways, I'm gonna go give you some clips underneath the bridge with some neutral revs because it sounds amazing. All right, got the windows down, got the moonroof down, about to head underneath the bridge right now. I'm gonna have to pop it in the neutral right here. Enjoy. I hope that came through great on camera. If you can see my smile, I love it. I love it. I love it so much. Now, does that burn a crap ton of fuel doing that repeatedly? Absolutely. But does it sound amazing? Absolutely. Also, just something I noticed, it has like a whistle to it. If you're just like barely getting on the throttle, like on and off, you hear like a little bit of a whistle when it's sucking in the air. It sounds awesome. You just can't beat that. Dude, you get about 5,000 RPMs, this thing is a screamer. Now, as much as that puts a huge smile on my face getting to hear that and all that, it's obviously from the outside not incredibly loud, because it's just your air intake. Your air intake, it's not your exhaust. Maybe the next thing is to make the exhaust sound like the air intake. But anyways, guys, I'm gonna wrap the video up right here while I'm driving on my way back home. I hope you guys enjoyed this little install video. I hope it was helpful for you guys. I cannot say enough that I love this cold air intake. It sounds awesome. That's my favorite part about the whole entire thing. Obviously, it does have some additional benefits like the washable air filter, so you never have to really change your air filter. All you gotta do is just wash it a few times and you're ready to go. And it does, in theory, give you a little bit better gas mileage, a little bit better throttle response, a little bit more horsepower, but to be honest, it's not really that noticeable at all. The most notable thing is that your engine is going to sound a lot louder and a lot more aggressive, and as you can tell by my reaction, it sounds awesome. It's my favorite part about this truck. So if you like this video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. Leave down in the comment section down below what you guys thought of this video. What did you guys miss? Any questions, comments, concerns? Links to the K&N air filter as well as the recharge kit to be able to wash and clean your air filter down the lines. All of that will be linked in the description down below. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for all the awesome new videos that are coming. New videos every single week on the Taco Rick channel. If you have a suggestion for a upcoming video, leave it in the comment section down below. And if it's a good enough suggestion, I will make a video on it. Anyways, Taco Rick out. Peace.